It's 3 o'clock, and I'll call the meeting to order. At this time, this is the September 15th, 2020 regular board meeting of the Rockingham County Board of Elections. Thank you all for being here and watching in. At this time, I'm going to ask veteran Robert Pankey to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and then the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You'll remain standing, please.
Let us be in the attitude of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, as we come as humble as we know how, we come to your house today and thank you for bringing us here safely. Thank you for all the people in the building that attend this meeting and those who have a mind to come. Dear Lord, as you will send your spirit down to be with us so that all that we do will be pleasing in our sight, for we know that you are able. Dear Lord, we also thank you for the family circle that play a participatory role in helping us to be stewards and servants to your will. We also thank all of the armed forces here and on foreign soil who are fighting to make sure we enjoy these freedoms so we can exercise one of the most important things that we have is the right to vote. As we go forward, be with us and guide us so that we'll do things that going forward, Rockingham County will be inclusive and everybody will benefit from the ideas and goals we set here today. And dear Heavenly Father, as we look forward, let the umbrella of love cover all of us, and we'll all reap the benefits from the decisions we make here today. If you do this for us, we'll be so careful to give you all the praise, honor, and glory which you desire. This is my prayer in your precious Son, Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
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 Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, since I'm joining you by phone, would you
Yes.
do a roll call so that I'll know who's there, since I cannot see you?
Okay. Thank you. I was going to announce that you were not present with us, but you were joining us by phone. Do you mean a roll call of the board? Tony, do you mean a roll call of the board?
Yes, of the board.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. All right. Bonnie Ferguson,
Here.
Leanna Lawson,
Here.
Jeff Parrish,
Here.
and I'm here. So that's 4. We actually have a full board with us, counting Tony on the phone.
Is John Morris present?
And I'm sorry, John Morris and Amy Simpson.
Okay.
Okay, right. Okay, the next item is item number 4, the approval of the agenda. I'll ask for a motion to approve the September 15th, 2020 agenda.
Mr. Chair, I will make that motion, but I would like to also add in that motion that we add NCGS 143-318-11 under executive session, letter A, and number 3, to consult with our attorney.
All right.
I second the motion.
There's a motion and a second to amend the agenda and add the item in executive session. And there's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next, item number 5 is approval of minutes of 2 meetings, our regular meeting of August 18th and our called meeting of September the 1st. Let's do those separately. First, the minutes for the August 18th, 2020 regular meeting. I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the August 18th, 2020 regular meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion and a second to approve August 18th, 2020 regular meeting minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign.
Mr. Chair, I also will make a motion to approve the September the 1st, 2020 call meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve September 1st call meeting minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. We didn't have anybody sign up for public comment. Is that right, Amy?
No, we did
Okay,
not.
no public comment. We'll move on to item number 7, unfinished business. Amy, what do you have in that category that we talked about before and we need to revisit?
Just you guys visiting the one-stop sites and the polling places, the precincts.
Okay, I know last meeting we talked about going out to visit all the polling places to include the one-stop sites, the 4 one-stop sites, and then all of the election day sites, and meeting with the site coordinators or chief judges. I sent out an email yesterday to all the board to divide up into groups of 2 to visit the 4 one-stop sites first, since we'll be voting there in a month, about 30 days. Meet and look at those sites first, and then during the month of August to meet and go to all the other precincts with the chief judges. The purpose of the visit is to offer suggestions and take suggestions from the site coordinators and chief judges. Obviously, every place we go is different. It's set up different, and there's some things that we need to pay particular attention to, especially due to the COVID-19 and our cleaning and keeping the places as sanitary as possible. We obviously meet in 3 of the county-owned buildings for one stop, that being Eden Library, Madison Med Library, and the Board of Elections site. The only non-county-owned building is Salvation Army in Reedsville. We have permission from the county manager and the director of the maintenance department, public works department, Ronnie Tate, to do a deep clean, a fogging, a misting with their machines before we start voting on October 15th, either this night before it's set up or very early in the morning as we start voting on those days at 8 o'clock. So I would ask Amy or the site coordinators to coordinate the misting with the maintenance department and find out when they want to do that, if it's during our setup or early in the morning on the 15th. And we have a schedule of 2 of us going to each of the 4 sites. We're fortunate today to have the 4 site coordinators here with us. We're glad to have y'all here, ladies.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Before we really get into this, I have a statement I'd like to make, and also I have a couple of questions I would like to ask about some of the information.
All right.
As you just stated at our last meeting, it's noted in our minutes that we just approved for September the 1st, 2020 for our call meeting. We discussed, there was a discussion took place, and it was determined the board would work individually on a checklist for visiting the polling places and decide in what manner the polling places would be visited at the next regular board meeting on September the 15th. Then yesterday, as you stated, we received an email from you that you had listed the 5 things we needed to work on and the combination of board members to visit the sites. The only thing that wasn't decided on by you was the time and the date that we would be visiting. And I would like for you to know that with my schedule, I'm available on October the 13th, 2020, at 12:30 to visit sites. I really suggest, since you have all the information and know what's needed at the sites, that maybe you and the site coordinators go and do this.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
due to unforeseen circumstances, I will not be able to visit any of the sites.
Okay. At any time?
At any time, correct.
Okay. Now, what I sent out, Bonnie, was as I understood and recollect at the last meeting, we were all to kind of write down some things that we would like to check on and make suggestions for. I mean, I wasn't trying to push anything. It was just hopefully a partial list of the things that we need to pay attention to. And I was going to leave it up to the 2 folks that were going to each of the sites to decide when they wanted to go to visit the sites. Now, of course, it needs to be before October the 15th. Some of the things on my list was pay particular attention to the entry and exits. I know some places you can go in one door and out another, such as the Madison Med Library. Some of the other sites may have a little more problem with that. We would like for people, this is all to protect the voting public and our workers. What we would like to do is have people come in to vote in one door and go out another. I'm not sure that's available in Eden. Does anybody know, ladies?
I thought we discussed this before, and Amy said she had talked to Michael Roach about that.
She did. That's still going in one hallway and out the same hallway, as I understand it. Now, we could put down some tape to have people come in maybe on the right side of the hallway and go out on the right side as they go out.
Was that right, Amy? I thought they came in one door and went out the front door.
Well, I'm talking about a little short hallway that you go in the door and then take a right to go into the area where we vote.
As long as the library is closed, I think we'll be able to route people to exit the front door. No one will be allowed to come in that front door, but people can exit through the front door.
Okay, maybe that, well, I was particularly thinking about the short hallway that people will be going in and out of that area. The other things that
Well,
yes.
could we have the site coordinator
Who's in Eden? Okay. Ma'am, come up and introduce yourself to everybody and tell us what you think about that.
Hi, I'm Denise Wilson, site coordinator for Eden. And I agree with Amy. If the library is still closed, that would be
ideal?
the safest. It would be ideal. Because if not, we're going to be in that small entryway.
But let's say that it's not. Let's say that they are, in fact, the library is, in fact, open. Are there any other options for that site that we could do to have separate entrance and exit places?
We don't. We don't. Without going, out through the library.
Through the library proper.
Right. Yeah.
Denise, do you understand what I meant about the little short hallway there?
Right,
You
I
know,
do.
after you come in the side door and take a right to go down where you,
Right.
would we be able to put a tape right down the middle to try to keep people going in on one side and people coming out on the
We
other?
could put the tape, don't you think so, Amy? We could put the tape, but it's going to be fairly close. I don't know if it would be, it wouldn't be we couldn't do the 6 feet distancing, but we could put the tape to kind of, I guess people could be more mindful of, and I don't think anybody's going to be standing around talking either. They're going to be moving in and out, I hope, as quickly as they can. But it is kind of narrow there, but we could put the tape and just make them more mindful of. What do you think, Jake? I mean,
Well, I'm trying to remember, and I know that we're limited, and I agree with both you and Amy. If in fact the library's closed, then problem solved. I think we can simply enter from one door and exit through the
it
other.
would be ideal.
My concern is that it may not be. We're talking the 15th of October. We're looking at a month from now. I would love to have a workable game plan if we do that. And by I hope that we can, you and I, if we are in fact the people that go to that particular site, I hope that we can get over there and look at that site and come up with something that works for
I
everybody.
have one date, and that's October the 13th at 12:30.
What day is that?
It's on a Tuesday.
Tuesday before election starts.
Oh,
on
okay, that's the day we're meeting. That's not a problem, I can do that. Yeah. Is that adequate time in case we need to make any
I won't be
modifications?
back in town until then.
Oh,
that's all I have.
that's it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we'll make it work. Okay, yeah.
See, that's the only,
Would you be available to come by and meet with Bonnie and I on that day at 12:30?
I can.
Would it be possible to make arrangements with the library, Amy, so that we can in fact have access on that day?
We have the names of all the contact people for all the sites, all 15, 16 of them.
And at that particular place, it would be either Michael or,
Actually, this is the head chief librarian there.
okay, Siebert,
I forgot her name.
Kathy Siebert.
Okay.
I can't comment until we actually get over and look at it, Denise.
Okay.
Do you concur?
I concur.
While you're here, let me go to spacing. Amy's going to have painter's tape and duct tape for outside. Are we going to put down tape 6 feet apart everywhere? And have people stand behind that. And if we have like 8 booths open, we're going to let 8 people in to start with, and when somebody leaves, have somebody out there to invite another person to go in. Is that?
That's what we'd like to do, yes.
And the
Okay.
booths are supposed to be clean before another person enters the booth.
So it's going to take a minute to clean the you mean with the wipes and stuff? Okay. All right, the other thing, that was the tapes. And I can imagine that's going to go outside. That line's probably going to go outside.
Yes, sir. It
At
would.
probably all of them.
Yes. I don't see any other way.
Trying to remember what else.
Can I ask that question of Amy?
Yes.
Amy, are you at any point going over there to the sites to review the setup? Royce just mentioned the tape, which made me wonder if you're going over there at any point.
I did not have plans to, due to everything going on at the office. I can make arrangements if I need to.
Okay. The other thing we need to think about, and it may be different at each location, is the number and location of the voting booths. Do we have we decided to make, even thought about that, Amy, yet? You leaving that up to the site coordinators, how many booths they can put up separate and,
Well, I thought that was one of the things you guys would check, to see how many booths could fit in there.
we will. We can, that's one of the purposes for visiting.
Now, Denise, would you have any recommendation, knowing that space and having been there many times, do you have a recommendation of what would be an adequate number at the Eden site, and to keep us in compliance with what we need to
I
do?
think that's putting Denise on the spot, because I don't know that she can honestly stand there and say, you know, if we measure 6 feet and we put one, you measure 6 more feet, exactly how many is going to be able to go in
Right, 'cause
there.
I
I
would-
think that's what's got to be determined on these visits.
And I think Bonnie's right, and that's what, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking 4 safely.
Just
but-
guessing.
Just guessing, but, you know, I think that's something we probably need to go in and we'd have to measure, you know, get more accurate, but I mean, I'm just thinking,
Yeah, okay.
Or-
Were you the site coordinator there last time?
you know, Kathy Clark.
Kathy was there.
Kathy was there.
Does
But
anybody
you
know how
did-
many,
But you did work there,
I did
though.
work there.
you know how many booths we had then?
I was thinking 8, 4 on, 4.
I can't
I'm
remember.
thinking, I'm thinking we had 8, and then, of course, let's see, 8.
Okay.
Pretty sure we had 8. You
So
know,
we
back to
talk-
back, you know, 4, and, you know, they were back to back.
We're talking about half as many then probably.
Maybe.
And the location of the tables that we'll all be working at,
Because, you know, because coming in, we'll have, you know, like our greeter. And see, normally, our greeter, we try to, like, double duty there. And then well, really, they kind of sat between the DS-200 and the, you know, and they were the greeter and kind of were helping at the DS-200. And then if we had curbside, that person may go out to take care of curbside, and somebody else would step up to kind of help out until they got back. I mean,
Well, I think we do feel like we're going to have more curbside this time
I
than
think
what
so,
we have in the
too.
past, and I think
Oh,
we're
I-
going to have to make accommodations for that.
because we're already getting a lot of calls asking if we're going to have curbside, and I think a lot of people are going to.
Amy, we're talking one stop now. We gonna have two bells out there.
We will have 2 available, yes.
Do we know that for a fact? That brings us into HAVA, and I'd rather talk about HAVA a little bit later.
Yes, ma'am. We'll have
Well,
2.
we
We do
have,
have 2 now,
Yes, ma'am.
we have.
For the one stop.
we have
for the
eight-
one stop,
8,
okay,
yeah.
but not not the actual 15 precincts. We don't have 2.
Yes, we do.
We do have 2. Okay, I thought we only had 15.
No, well, we had a little bit more, but like I said, some of them are old. We do have 15.
Are they still workable, the
Uh,
older ones?
Maintenance staff has doctored on them, so to speak, and we can probably get them working.
Let me clarify what Bonnie asked. Do we have 30 that's available?
We will have 30, yes.
Now, you're saying will. Is that including HAVA?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I don't want to include HAVA yet.
Well, if we don't include HAVA, no, we would not have enough.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was my other thing, is to talk to the site coordinators about the curbside voting, because I agree. I think we're going to have a lot of people that would want to vote curbside.
Yeah.
Denise, what other things do you think we need to consider just in the Eden site?
I mean, it's limited space, but I think we can make it work with, you know, as far as, I guess, measuring out the 6 feet, but it's gonna, I mean, just some minor adjustments, I think.
And things that we are doing, Denise, we are having the plexiglass shields made
That-
for each one of the tables that people are at. We will have Everyone will have their own ink pen. We won't be
Right.
sharing pens. Everyone, we will have lots of hand sanitizer. We will have lots of masks for everybody that's there. There was a recommendation by some individuals that spoke before us about doing 2 lines, one non-mask and one mask. I do not see how we can work that. I just
Not
don't
gonna
think
work.
that's
Yeah, not-
possible
That won't work at our site.
at any of these sites.
No, I don't either.
But I think, from what I've, been told, I think what we've got in place, I mean, I'm comfortable with it. And
Well, all the poll workers are going to be wearing masks and shields. Is that right?
Shields are not mandatory, masks are.
But we'll have shields available for all
They
the
will be
workers?
available for those who feel like they need the extra protection, yes.
Okay. Well, I agree, Denise. I talked to a guy yesterday that was concerned. He works in Reidsville. And he was concerned, and I told him that with everything we talked with Ronnie Tate about last meeting, and everything that we're trying to do, we're going to probably be safer than going to the grocery store.
I'm comfortable with, and I think that, from what we've been told, that Amy has shared with us, I'm comfortable with what we're doing.
And that's what we want the public to be. We want the
Yeah.
public to be comfortable knowing that we've taken the precautions to make them safe to come in to vote.
Because we've had a lot of calls too, that people are saying that, they want to come to the polls. They're looking forward to coming to the polls.
Okay, everybody, everybody that comes to vote, are we going to offer a mask if they don't have one?
Yes.
We
Yes.
can't require them to wear a
No,
mask.
we can't require it, but they'll be available and we will make the offer.
But of course, when you go to the grocery store, maybe half the people have a mask on, so.
But
Will there be a person at a station handing out masks to the,
I
okay.
was thinking maybe at the greeter station, that's what I was.
What about the
thinking.
person that's inviting the next person to come in? Would that person,
That is the
That's the
greeter.
That's the greeter.
that is the greeter?
That would probably be the best person, I think. It's the first person they're going to see that's going to, make contact with them is the greeter.
Are
So
we going to have a sign asking people to stand behind the line until they're asked to come in?
I think so, don't you, Amy? I
Yes,
agree.
we're working on signage. Because we're
Okay.
going to need directional
being worked
arrows,
on.
we're going to need the signs that the health department has, like the hand washing, wearing the mask, 6-foot distancing. We need to post all of that, yes.
What are we going to do if people come up to the curbside and somebody goes out there and this person says, well, I mailed in my ballot, I want to make sure it's being counted. What are we going to do about that?
I thought that we were going to,
Would we have to have somebody go in and check to see?
It appears to me they'd vote provisional and make sure that the other vote had counted.
That's
That way
an
it would be
option.
checked. That would be the only way you could check.
We have there will be ballot tracks in place. They can check on their own ballot.
Prior.
prior.
Yes.
Correct.
Those are the things that we need to get out to the community, where they can go and look to track their votes and what we're doing to make their voting experience safe. But if someone insists, you have to let them vote a provisional, and then you
That's
just go
correct.
back and check it
That's
to
true.
make sure.
I agree.
Do you have enough committed workers, Denise?
Short one.
I'm still short one.
Are we going to discuss that today, Amy?
Okay, that's what I was thinking Amy was going to
Okay.
discuss that.
We had a couple of areas, I think we needed a few that we
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
discuss.
I think so.
But I definitely need one, because Eden's busy, and it's a busy place.
It is.
Would you like to add anything else, Denise?
I don't think so. I think we've covered everything, and I'm comfortable with what you've already, we've already got in place. And just like the signage, I know you're working on the signage, and just getting back to the library, like your concern, if the library is open, what we're going to do, and that we just need to take some measurements. We need to measure that.
Well, if the library's open, I understand they're going to have to come in and out the same door.
Yeah, that's true. So it's probably going to be the tape down the middle.
But if it's closed, they're going to close off the part of the library where the stacks are and all that. Just direct people right out the front door.
Right out the front door, we can put tape and to kind of guide them out.
Okay,
front
and
door.
you scheduled to meet with Bonnie and Jeff over there on
We'll schedule.
October 13th, on Tuesday at 12:30.
At
At 12:30 on the
It
13th.
may be 1 o'clock. I'm scheduled to be back in town at 12:30, so
Oh.
it may be 1 o'clock.
Okay, 1 o'clock.
Say 1 o'clock. Okay, thank you very much, Denise. Thanks for your help.
Thank you.
And ladies, Luann, if you want to come up and talk to us about the site at the Board of Elections site.
Debbie, we're very fortunate. We have a way in and a way out, so they don't have to go in the same place.
Are they going to go out the front door like they normally do?
No, they go out the side door. They come in through the main entrance of the library, in that vestibule area, then they go out the side.
One stop.
Yeah, well, in precinct day too.
No, I'm talking about one stop.
Oh, you're talking about Whitworth?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Two hats. They're going to come in the main door there, and then they'll go through, we're going to have the DS-200 and the voting booths in the first training room. They'll go out that door instead of coming back through where they came to vote.
So they'll be going out a back door of the building and around, okay. Anything else that you know of that we have talked to Denise about?
Not really. We're going to have to get in there and measure how many voting booths we can actually have in that room there. So we really don't know exactly right now. I think we're pretty safe where, in that building.
Okay. Tony can't meet. I had Tony sort of scheduled to meet with Jeff over there. And Bonnie can't meet any other time. So,
You can't have two of the same party. That's been discussed.
well, it has been discussed. I don't know how we're going to get around it. Tony's not available, and you got one time, 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever.
And we're supposed to visit Reedsville? Bonnie?
Yeah, you and Bonnie are supposed to go to Reedsville. I don't. Does anybody have objections to two people in the same party going to
Jeff
look at
did
these?
at our last meeting.
Yeah, I did. I thought that we talk about this being a nonpartisan exercise, and I wanted to ensure everyone that we were getting representatives from both parties present. So if there was anything that resembled things being done in a partisan manner, we would say, well, we had representation from both parties, and this is what we agreed upon.
However, do you have a remedy for the situation that we're in?
Well, there's only 5 members, and I just found out that Tony's not available. So if we send 2 people, we would either do multiple visitations with Bonnie, or we would, in fact, have 2 people of the same party together. And that's not ideal, but under the circumstance, I can live with that.
Okay. Leanna?
Well, I do some things with Combs, so on certain days
I cannot hear her.
on certain days I probably would not be able to come. So I'll have to make arrangements with who of my partner's going to be and see what time they're available and what time I can be available.
Well, we don't have any designated days yet. In fact, I took Royce's email as being a suggestion. I don't know that we have actually agreed upon anything. Well, let me speak for myself. I haven't agreed upon anything. I don't have a problem, however, with the recommendation. I don't have a problem being partnered and going to the sites that are here. But I haven't agreed to that, and my understanding is that these things aren't official until we as a board decide that they are in fact official. Until that moment arrives, I think it's open for debate as to where we go, and when we go, and who we may go with.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, yes, go ahead, Tony.
We've already determined who's visiting Eden. We're talking about the early voting site, so we're not
Yes,
only
ma'am.
at
Yes,
this
ma'am.
point.
Yes, ma'am.
What?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We know that the Whitworth location is pretty secure in our plans. I mean, Luann spoke briefly to that. And I know how busy they are at the office, but would it be possible for Amy to visit the other two with the site coordinators? And that would eliminate any one board member from having to do it.
You mean Amy and the site coordinators only?
Yes.
I don't have a problem with that.
I know they're extremely busy in that office, but it would eliminate,
So you're talking about the Madison Marietta Library and the Salvation Army location?
yeah.
And
Yes.
Eden,
Well, you already got Eden. We got that worked out.
maybe.
I do not mind doing that, but the whole purpose of the board going was to eliminate me from being out of the office. But I will do whatever you instruct me to do.
Well, like I said earlier, unforeseen circumstances will not allow me to do it.
I understand.
Okay. Bonnie, is there any other time other than the 13th at 1 o'clock that you can meet with anybody and go?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Is there other discussion about possibly Amy going with site coordinators to the other two sites and just not visiting the Board of Elections site?
I feel like that Board of Elections site is secure.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're right. It's probably the least of our worries.
Are the other two site coordinators present there today?
They are. They are. Would you like to speak to them?
No, I'm assuming you're going to call them up and speak, are you not?
I will. But let's iron out this thing about Amy going with the site coordinators at Madison, Marietta, and Reidsville. Is there a motion to have Amy go with the site coordinators there and check on all these things that we're talking about?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
There's a motion and second. That was Bonnie, second. Motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. That motion carries. So Amy, something else for you to do.
For the record, I voted against that motion.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry. 4-1, that motion was approved.
Royce, while we're deciding on things, now, I'm scheduled to come back into town on that day. That's the reason I said that would be the only day I would be able to go. And I am scheduled to be back at 12:30, but there are lots of things that can happen in between now and then, because that is almost a month away.
Right.
What happens if I do not get back in time for us to get that site done?
I would suggest that we make the decision that was voted on 4-1, just then apply for all four of the areas.
All four sites?
That's what I thought the intent, I thought that's what we were voting
What
on.
we were talking about was Reidsville and Madison, Marietta.
Well, we've got an extenuating circumstance where we've got a board member that's out of town that's making a Herculean effort to get back in time to do it. I say, why put her through that if we've got an alternative plan for the other sites?
Well, it's just 2 more sites, well, 3 more sites that Amy will have to visit.
Well, I agree with Jeff on that. I mean, things can happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it possible, Amy, for you to visit all of the sites without it putting a burden on you and be with the site coordinators?
I'll make it happen, if that's what you tell me to do.
Well, we've already voted on it.
Well, we hadn't voted to have her go to all the sites. We voted for her to go to Reidsville and Madison Marietta.
Okay.
Well, we did talk and discuss that we did not need her to go to Wentworth since she's
No.
already in Wentworth, but we're discussing Eden now.
Okay, all right. Would somebody like to make a motion to have Amy included in visiting with the site coordinator in Eden?
I make the motion to include the Eden site for Amy to visit, along with the site coordinator.
I'll second
the
that.
motion.
That was a tie.
Vote by.
Okay, there's a motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. That motion carries 5-0. Okay. Glenda, you want to step up and Luann, I meant to ask you, do you have adequate workers?
I have 13 right now.
Are you going to be able to work all these people without running into a bunch of overtime?
Well, that's what we are asking all the site coordinators. That's the reason we gave them an extra one on each one of them. And we gave them 12 instead of cutting them so that they could work them in and out so that they would not have any overtime. It was my understanding Amy was going to make that clear in the training process.
At Wentworth, overtime is really not a problem because we're just going to make everybody take a day off that last week when there's a, we have that one Saturday. So we'll be fine.
Well, but there is a possibility, you do understand there is a possibility that we may have to use some of them at other sites at times if we don't have enough people.
Right, and I'm going to let them know which days those extra ones are available.
Okay, thank you.
Glenda, we'll start with you, asking you the same question. Have you got commitments from your one-stop workers?
I am lacking 2 now. I have had 2 that, because of unforeseen circumstances, have had to bow out.
So you have 12 now?
11.
11?
Counting me,
11 counting you?
yes.
Okay, we need to talk about that in closed session. We need to get you some more people.
Thank you.
If we got them.
And I will say that this is my first year as site coordinator, and the scheduling has got me stressed. We'll make it work, but it has me stressed.
We have all the confidence in you in the world. We know that you can do this. We've
Well-
seen you work, and we know, Glenda, that you
Well-
can handle this. But we're all here to help you
Well, I
with that.
appreciate it, but that is my, up here.
Yeah. I'm sure it does all the site coordinators
I'm
and all
sure.
the precinct officials.
I'm sure.
That's the main thing. But you do understand, we only have a certain amount of money that we
I
can
understand that.
spend, and the overtime just eats it away.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that, and I will try to make it work, and I might make mistakes, and y'all can slap me on the hand and say, that's it, you're done, and I won't have a problem with it.
We just appreciate all of you so
Thank you.
very much. We really do, and the effort that goes into what you all do. We
Is there
really
anything you
do.
need to add to the discussion of all the other things that we have
Well,
talked
as far
about?
as the facility, we are going to be tight, because that is a very, very, very small room. when you talk about social distancing and everything. We can make them come in and leave a different door. That's going to be an issue too, only on their part, because you know how people are. They want to go back over here and discuss. So it's going to be up to the staff to make sure that doesn't happen this year. And I feel like our greeter is going to have a very, very, very important job this year.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to be there that's going to take it serious, because it is this year, you know. Only a certain number are come in. As far as the facility, Luann and I talked about it because she uses that facility too during election day, where her workers have to have their lunch in that room because they cannot leave. We don't have a kitchen, for sure. We got a little room that's got a refrigerator and a sink, but it's not a kitchen. So they have to have their lunch around the table right there out in the middle of everywhere, in the middle of everybody. If there was some way that we could have some type of divide to put in front of that table, so they're not out there in the open.
You just, that's in a privacy divide, not necessarily to protect from COVID or anything like that, just a privacy.
Well, privacy mainly, and COVID. Not as much COVID. Just as far as an example, you know, one stop last year, we would bring snacks, and we had a nice, beautiful, yummy chocolate cake on that table for the workers. Well, we had a voter come in and see it there and just made themselves at home, and they cut them a big old piece of that chocolate cake. So just something that just, whether it's something accordion, you know, one of those screens that you can fold up or whatever and put around there.
Where do the employees up there have, do they have a break room?
No.
I do not know.
Nope. No.
What?
No.
I know they keep their stuff in the refrigerator in that little makeshift kitchen that we have.
It was like a 8 by 10 or something like that.
Well, it's just a little narrow, you know, 2 people could get in there and not social distance in that little room.
I think that's something when you and Amy go and look that you need to keep in mind and see if there is something that the Board of Election has, or maybe someone else might have a screen that you could use to divide
Or,
that
you know,
with.
if the maintenance staff can just rig up something to put there. And as far as voting booths, yeah, we're going to be cut back a whole lot in that room.
You know, I wonder if the county has a tent that could be set up outside somehow with a table and chairs under it for our precinct workers to go out and have their lunch.
I don't.
Anybody know?
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would depend on the
I
weather.
don't know.
That might be something you want to,
But there again, the only place that could be set up is right where people are going to be coming out from voting. The way the library is, the only place that they could possibly set up a tent that would be easy access for the voters would be right there at the exit door where people are exiting from voting.
Well, let me ask you this. I know there's a sofa up against the wall over there. Is there a way you think that we could block that area off to put a little table for the staff to be able to go over there and eat, or
That's
no?
where the DS-200 is, and that's where curbside sets up.
Oh, is
to
it?
go out there.
Okay.
Really, if you have the divider, would be the best solution.
And I think that there is a possibility that we could find something like that very easily.
But
I think that's probably true, Amy, if you making notes, if you could
I do.
check with maintenance or somebody on that.
I do.
I have a question
Yes, sir.
that's probably unrelated, but it just occurred to me. Let's say that in the event that the libraries are in fact still closed during that period of time, would it be possible, Amy, to, instead of being in that one room that's dedicated both Eden and at Madison Maidan, if we could set up in the library the big main space proper.
That would be something we'd have to talk to Michael about.
But from the standpoint of us changing the room, there's nothing that would prohibit us from doing that as long as it's in that same building, that same location.
No.
So if in fact it was, because I imagine that everybody is looking for bigger spaces to accommodate as many people as possible and to also make sure that we have adequate distance from each other. I'm wondering, and we have no way of knowing, but I'm wondering if we could do a little work with speaking with the library people and those two instances in particular to see if we can get that larger I haven't asked the site coordinators. What do you think about that as even a possibility?
Well, in Madison area, I think the larger area you talk about would be the kids area.
We would have to go over there and look at it and just see what we could do.
But would it be a significantly bigger area in which to operate?
It depends on if they would be willing to move furniture, things like that.
And tables and stuff like that.
I mean, it also would have to go back and look at, exits there too.
Would that have to change, you think?
If you went, yeah, we would.
Well, I think we realize there's a need for that, and we can bat it back around all afternoon, but till we actually talk to the people in control of the library, we're not going to know the answer to that today.
Well, I agree. I can talk with Michael Roach about using that little, but what about Eden Library? Where do y'all have a break or
On the
eat?
other side of, like, I don't remember where our ballot station is, just there's a small petition that was for Kathy, the site coordinator last year, where she was set up, but she also shared the table, and we just took turns, having lunch. And at that time, if we were having not to work overtime, we were taking maybe an hour to 2 hours for lunch. Some people would rather go to their car and eat and come back. But we did have a table. We have a kitchen, not big enough to eat in. I mean, you could stand up and eat there, but to sit down, we used to table that, but it did have a petition that you could sit behind. I mean, you could hear everybody, that was voting, you could hear, and we had to be rather quiet, so the voters didn't hear us, but you could sit down and eat.
Do the officials traditionally take an hour for lunch? Because a lot of them, I would think, would want to go out to get out away from it a little bit.
And they can, but as far as the official, Kathy, no, she always stayed there.
Right, because she would be the
Right.
site
And I would
coordinator, and I
stay-
understand
and I
that,
would
yes.
stay there.
But as far as the workers' day,
They can leave, we have some that go to Osborne, to the cafe,
Mhm.
or, just go pick up lunch at, like Wendy's or McDonald's is right there also.
Sure.
well, I do think that's something we can work on,
Well, and
Linda.
I
I feel sure there's a solution for it.
I know
really
we were
do.
talking mainly about one stop, but since the other election is right on the skirts and Luann's going to be using the same room, they do not leave for lunch. So they do have to have their lunch right in there, so,
On election day.
on election day.
Everybody stays there, nobody leaves.
Right.
So, we don't leave.
You don't leave on election day.
No.
Okay, Amy, that's something that you can look at and talk to the site coordinators about when you go to visit the sites. So,
I think that's something we got to talk about when we talk about precinct officials also.
okay. All right, thank you. And Reidsville?
I'm gonna take it off.
That's fine.
I was not site coordinator there. I was not site coordinator there last year. I worked at Wentworth. I'm slightly familiar with it. My husband worked over there, and I was over there a time or two. We have a similar situation with going in one door, and the only exit is to go back through the kitchen and then to go out that door. So, of course, a petition there would be nice as well, because it's going to be back in the kitchen. The exit door is actually in the kitchen, sort of like at Wentworth, where you'd have to go through that little kitchen area and out that back door. And at Wentworth, they have the open space, and then they pull that shade down so you can't see, but that's all open at Reidsville at the Salvation Army as well. The only other exit would be to go out, but then you go through the Salvation Army, and I don't think we can do that.
No, we don't have access to the
Yeah.
rest of the building.
So that's the only other exit, to go in the door that they generally go in, and then to go out through the kitchen.
Could you set your DS-200 up somewhere close to that door going into the kitchen so they could,
Well, that's where the check-in station is. We might have to reverse this somewhat. We might have to have check-in station on the other side, because there's not also the wall that they use for the check-in station is not going to accommodate 4 computers. To be able to socially distance, you can only get 3 there.
how many booths do you think you can have there? Do you?
I don't know, because I didn't pay that much attention to booths. But there is a little bit larger space back there than some of the other places.
Yeah. Okay,
So for me, I would request, like Glenda, a divider to keep people from coming into the kitchen.
but the workers eat in the kitchen there?
They
So,
do.
yeah, that's a,
And again, you can see right in there, you can see,
yeah.
but it would be nice for them not to walk in. But again, to be able to do that, we might just have to flip the whole thing and have check-in on the left when you come in the door, which I think would work.
Yeah.
Well, we'd like to have the DS-200 close to where people will leave so they can
Right, but if you
put the
came
ballot
in
in
that
and
door,
leave.
if you came,
They need to leave. I don't need to stand around and talk to people because somebody's waiting to come in.
right, but if you come in the door and you take a left for the check-in stations, and then the ballot stations, and then have the voting booths, and then have the DS-200 over there where the check-in station usually is, and they could just go out that door,
So all you need is just a short petition in the
the
kitchen?
kitchen.
Okay, well, y'all can look at that when you go over there, Amy. And we'll leave it up to Amy to work it out with you all to go to all of your one-stop sites. Do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
Do all of you understand that we will probably have painter's tape inside and maybe duct tape outside, because of the painter's tape probably won't stick to concrete or something like that. So we'll have maybe duct tape outside. And 17 days is a long time. It may be coming up, may have to be replaced, but that'll have to be measured out, all of that.
Well, I'm like Glenda, I'm a little stressed out over the scheduling too, because if we have an overlap to cover lunch periods, and you don't want more than 9 people there at any given time, to get people there early to cover lunches and be sure the next people are gone, so we don't have more than 9 people. Correct?
That's correct, yeah. It should only be 9 people there at any given time. That's what we have budgeted for. That's all we have budgeted for.
Have you talked to your people and they are committed?
I have.
So-
But I also have 5 brand-new people that have never worked before.
And that's one reason we put it in Reidsville, because we knew Lynn Collier could handle that. I recall that discussion, don't you, Amy?
Yeah.
Yay!
We wish we could do more, Lynn. We do, but we only have so many people that signed up to work, and we're trying to give you as many as we can.
I appreciate that. I'll take new ones over none.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. And any other suggestions that you have, just give them to Amy and talk to her about it when y'all go out and visit.
We certainly do appreciate all y'all's
Yeah,
hard work.
we
We
do.
really do.
Y'all are welcome to stay, or you can go back across the woods over there and go to work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, one thing that was mentioned when you were talking about visiting sites and what was going to happen at the precincts, and you mentioned that the schools had said, I think in the email you sent us, it says the Rockingham County School System Maintenance Department has equipment for the mist fogging similar to our county maintenance. They have agreed to sanitize the 4 schools before and after voting. Is that going to be in the same price range as what the county is going to do?
They did not mention the price at all.
Well, I think we need to have a contract with them.
Need to what?
Have something in writing from them. Do we have
Well,
anything in writing from them?
I talked to the maintenance director, E.C. Stoffel, and he checked with Dr. Shotwell, and he called me back in 10 minutes. He said, no problem, we can do that. The 4
Well, I definitely
schools.
want to see that in writing.
Especially if they're not going to charge us. I mean,
Well,
I can't imagine them not having a charge for that service.
Well, he didn't mention, and by the way, schools are closed on November 3rd. It's a teacher work day.
Wonderful.
But I will get with,
Even the year-round, the one
As far-
year-round school, I thought they were still in session on that day.
the
That
school,
would be just one school, but,
yeah, it'd be Dillard. I'm not, well, we don't vote at Dillard.
yeah.
When you say the schools are closed, you just mean no kids will be there, but the
No,
teachers
It's
and
a,
staff will
it's
be
a
there.
teacher work day, yes.
I do think we need something in writing
I will.
from them.
I'll talk to E.C. Stoffel about that. I didn't, I purposely didn't ask him if they were going to charge for it. So, and I understand in the same conversation that the county will be charging us to do all the voting sites, to include the one-stop sites and all the election day sites before and after all the election day sites except for the schools. They'll be doing the other 11. And the county manager said that he would have the maintenance people keep up with their cost and time. And we have money, I think, Amy, in the CARES money to pay for maintenance.
We do.
We do. Okay, so that shouldn't be a problem. And it'll be a lot less expensive than getting a private vendor to do that.
Well, I think that's the reason I would like to know what the schools, if anything, if the schools are going to charge us for it. If they don't, I think that's a very generous gift, and we would appreciate that. But if not, I'd like to compare the price.
Right. Okay, there had been, I think, some confusion about, I'm not sure if this was just in conversation or if we talked about it at a meeting, about whether or not we would meet on the 29th of September to certify ballots that had come in. If the machine was not available, not ready to accept the ballots, some discussion, I'm not sure what it is, but I think we know that there is a law that says we have to meet on the 29th. Is that?
Yes, and we will count ballots or accept them. You guys will either accept them or, deny, disapprove, whatever.
The 29th of,
September.
2 weeks from today,
so
Is
the
that
27th, you mean?
29th.
29th, that's the mandatory
That's the-
meeting.
And that's the beginning of the days that we will,
Right.
because
Yes,
we
ma'am.
will be meeting, and I have that on here to discuss a couple of things about absentee. We have the 29th at 3 o'clock, October the 6th at 3 o'clock, October the 13th is our regular meeting, and then we adjourn to the Board of Elections at 3 o'clock. October the 27th at the Board of Elections at 3 o'clock. November the 3rd will be Election Day. We will start at 2 o'clock at the Board of Elections. November the 10th will be absentee at 3 o'clock at the Board of Elections. And then November the 17th is our regular board meeting. Now, my question is this. On the 13th, and the 27th, we will be early voting, or one-stop voting. We cannot go in that little bitty boardroom and be squished in there together with COVID. Where will we be able to go into the Board of Elections that we can space out like we normally do?
In one of the training rooms. As you come down the hall, the first training room will be for the voting booths.
Okay,
The second training room will be for the meeting.
okay. All right.
And that's where we will also have the DS-200, so it will remain locked when we're not meeting.
Okay. Now, my other question is it possible for us to start earlier than 3 o'clock for these meetings? Because I feel like as many absentees that are coming in, requests that have come in and have gone out and are coming back in, we're going to be there all night if we start at 3 o'clock.
I understand we can change the time, but we can't
can't.
change the date.
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's what I read in the statute, yes.
Okay, that's Tuesdays beginning on the 29th and going through till after the elections on the 3rd. Is there a time that you all would like to start those meetings?
I'd like to start at 1 o'clock.
I agree. The only problem I see on November the 17th, we would be finished with all the absentees by then. And November the 10th, the last day that we will do absentees.
I don't have the schedule with me, I'm sorry.
I would like to move them up to 1 o'clock. I really would. Now, the 13th, our regular meeting is at 3 o'clock here. So if we move it up to 1 o'clock, we've got to make sure with Roy and Jennifer that we can move this meeting up to 1 o'clock and then adjourn down to the Board of Elections.
I don't have a problem with that. Our regular meeting at 1 o'clock at the governmental center.
Right.
Thank you, San Bonnie.
Yes.
What date is that?
October the 13th will be our next regular meeting, not
That's-
absentee, regular meeting.
That's not the third Tuesday. The third Tuesday is the 20th.
Okay. Maybe it is. Maybe that's another absentee. I got a
Yeah.
calendar right here, let me look.
Yeah, the 13th I have down as the absentee meeting.
Do you?
I
Okay.
do. And I have it at the Board of Elections office. Correct.
I'm sorry? I wasn't.
The 20th
Yeah, that's what-
would be the regular, so we would need to move the 20th.
Okay, would somebody like to make that in the form of a motion?
I make a motion that we move our absentee meetings to 1 o'clock to include our regular meeting on October the 20th here at the Governmental Center, to move it to 1 o'clock also.
I second that motion.
And all absentee meetings at 1 o'clock, except for the 20th? Is that-
Except for the one on the 3rd. Now, that'll be 2 o'clock. We've already voted on that. All the other absentee meetings. That would be the 29th, the 6th, the 13th, the 27th.
20th.
The 20th is the regular meeting, and then we go after that.
Yeah.
So that's the 27th and the 10th. November the 10th.
All of these would be 1 o'clock.
Yes.
11/10 is the day of canvass. No, I'm sorry. The 13th, 10, this,
I took that off the what they gave us as far as dates for the absentee.
okay, elections on, okay, you're right. The canvass is November 13th, 10 days after the election. But the last day we count absentees is a week after the election, on November 10th. Is that right? Okay, so I take your motion, and on the 20th, it's a regular meeting here at 1 o'clock followed by the absentee meeting at the Board of Election.
Correct,
Is that right?
correct.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. All right, motion carries.
Can I ask Amy a question?
Yes?
Amy, were you able to obtain a letter opener?
Not yet. I've got some to look at, but I've not had time to look at them.
Okay.
Will we have gloves available to open all these?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
The next thing on the unfinished business that I have is for Amy to talk to us about what she knows at this moment about HAVA funds.
And I'm afraid to tell you, I do not know anything different. The state has still not given us guidance. I'm still waiting. And I've talked to several other counties, and they're waiting too.
So I have a question. It's my understanding that there was a purchase order done for a security system down at the Board of Elections. Because we thought, and I've gone back through all this information that we discussed, that we could use this money entirely for some of these things. And now we find out we can't use all of this
Right.
money for that. It's got to be broken up between municipal and everything else. What's happened to that purchase order for that security system?
It's in place. I don't know.
How can you purchase something without having the money?
Now, I do have the email where Amy Strange said that HAVA funds would pay for the security system and the alarms, the curbside alarms. Because that was in
I
a
have-
separate email that I sent to her when we were first talking about the security system.
That would have been before our conversation of last week?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Well-
I don't know that I have that with me. I have the one that was sent last week, and I was quite concerned that we may not be able to pay for all of that security system with those HAVA funds. And if not, and it's a purchase order already been done, who's going to be paying for that?
I guess we would have, the only choice we'd have is to move the money from the CARES Act, if there's some there. I mean, it's the only thing I know to do.
Well, in
Well,
reading
I
what the
mentioned the email, I know it went to Royce, and I think I sent it to all the board members, the email from John Morris about spending money that we don't have. And I remember having this conversation in one of our meetings. I think John said the board could be liable for any funds that we spent that we didn't have money to pay. And I remember Bonnie and I saying that we refused to be responsible for it. So my concern is, how can we order these things if we don't have the money?
Well, there's the alarm system. Amy, is there any way to put a hold on that purchase order?
I think Derek has moved forward and they've ordered parts. Now, whether the parts get here in time, I don't know.
Because if you do recall, the commissioners denied that request when we asked them to pay for it.
Because there wasn't any money in the budget for it. That's the
Right.
reason they denied it. They're under such dire straits with COVID and what's going on with sales tax and everything else, that it just wasn't any money that they could set aside for it. So I don't know how we can spend money that we don't have. That's not being very, very good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we need instant clarification on that. In fact, if there is not, in fact, money there, I think that we need to stop that purchase order at whatever point it is. I don't know what's involved with that, but that's what needs to be done.
Can you, Amy, check on that and see if it can be stopped and let us know about that?
I will.
I don't know why the state board can't give us a definitive answer on the 21,000 some dollars that we requested for HAVA funds. I mean, it's clear that we could request that all counties, I believe, were guaranteed out of HAVA funds, not CARES, but HAVA funds, $10,000, and we could request up to $250,000. And we requested 21,000 something. And while they can't let us know if in fact we're going to get it, I understand they're going to keep the money there, and when we spend money, we send it to them, and they reimburse the county.
Well, even in the email, I think, from Amy Strange last week, she said to present them with purchase orders where we bought this stuff, and then they decide whether they would.
Numbered invoices.
Yeah,
and-
that they would pay for it. Well, we can't spend money that we don't have. If it can't be covered by HAVA, the county is not going to cover
No,
it.
we're not asking the county to pay for it.
Yeah. If HAVA doesn't pay for it in its entirety, then we don't get it. Bottom
Yeah,
line.
but what if it's already ordered and delivered is my question. Whatever the items may be that we don't have the money to pay for, then it's delivered and these vendors want their money.
Amy, can you check, Amy, again with Raleigh and give
I
them
will.
our concerns about that? We're here, sitting here talking about spending money that we haven't been guaranteed we're going to get.
I will.
And not to put us off another week or 4 or 5 days to let us know what we're going to get.
I will.
But I do think in the interim, somebody's got to be in touch with Derek and say, you got to stop this. We
Yeah,
don't have this money.
Like today, if at all possible.
Yeah. And the other thing, HAVA funds, you requested a copier, a printer. I'll get copies and printers mixed up. A printer to print the voter registration cards.
And the NCOA cards, yes. Toshiba is supposed to be bringing a printer this first part of this week to see if we can use one of theirs. So far, they've not been able to configure the copier or any printer to accept cardstock. So that's where we're at on that. We're waiting for them to come and see if what they have is usable.
Now, did IT get one of the computers down there to take so many of them? Did I read that in an email that you could print so many on
You
one
could
of
do about 10 to 15, and then it would jam.
The new one that's on Kathy's desk,
That one had to go back because it was broken.
it was what?
Broken. And we now have 1,291 cards to print.
How many, Amy?
1,291.
Well, I do think we're just going to have to do the best we can until we get the situation worked out. I just wish that in our budget hearing that we'd known about this during that time so we could address that and then been able to address it with the county commissioners instead of here at the last minute.
We put in our HAVA funds request for that printer.
Mm-hmm.
For part of that printer that we know
Right.
of now, $800 for the printer, but
Yeah.
the printer's like $1,700.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you mentioned Toshiba. Are you talking about leasing something, buying something, or just using something and paying them?
Well, it would be like our copier. We have to pay for all the copies we make. The equipment's there, and we pay so much per black and white copy or color copier, which this printer would just do black and white.
Well, let's hope they can get in there and get something
And
worked out for us.
I understand that the HAVA funds would only pay for a part of that because it would also be used in municipal elections and not
Not
this
just the
general
federal.
election.
Mhm.
So do you have an idea how much they're going to pay for?
I have no idea.
And there again, why were we not told that in the beginning?
I don't have an answer for that.
I've gone through the HAVA information again after this to see if it was something in there. I see nothing in that HAVA statement that they sent us as to what we could use it for and what we couldn't use it for and everything to state that we couldn't buy a copier or buy a printer or buy this, and all the funds come from the HAVA money. I don't see anything in there, unless they have something there at the state stating differently.
But the security system, we had $19,000 in there for that, and it's going to cost us 16 or 17, something less than, I mean, it hadn't gone up in price.
According
since
to Derek, no.
Since the last quote. So there's probably a couple of $1,000s left there,
If you can use all of it for
if we
that.
can use it for that. If we cannot use, go back a minute to Toshiba. So we will be paying per copy? And how much do you think that would,
That's something I'd have to check on with finance, because I'm not sure how much it is per copy.
do we have money in there for printing in our regular budget?
The copier service actually comes from our general supplies. We have to make sure that we have enough there to cover it each quarter.
Okay, Amy, if you would check on all of this and let us know by email as far as the security system and the HAVA funds, as soon as you can, we would appreciate it. Okay. Is there any other old business, unfinished business, before we move on? Moving down to new business. I have been told that we have an opportunity to do a public service announcement this Friday with Roy and Mabel Scott. Is anybody interested in doing that? Roy, do you all have a time set up for that Friday?
That would be with Mabel. I've not heard anything about it.
Okay. Is anybody interested in doing that this Friday?
I will not be available that day.
I think the idea is to just to send it out to the public that they can see and encourage them to come out and vote early, vote by absentee, vote by mail, vote on election day, and just explain to them a little bit about how we're trying to make it as safe as possible.
I think that's a great opportunity to get some information out.
Yeah.
I just hate that I won't be available.
Jeff, would you be available or having a desire, or would you like to do it with me?
I have a meeting at noon, but I really would not be interested in doing it.
Okay.
But I do have a meeting at
Leanne,
noon.
you're working on Friday, right? Okay. All right. I guess I'll talk with Dr. Scott and find out what time she wants to do this and work it into my schedule then. Is there any other new business?
Yes, sir, I have two items.
Okay.
The first item is gravel for the extra lot at the Board of Elections. It's my understanding from Amy that the gravel has completely gone away there, and that we are in need of putting some gravel on that lot for all the overflow, for especially the employees during One Stop and Election Day, and then the overflow for our voters, our citizens.
Did you get an answer on, I know you mentioned that maintenance had taken care of getting the trucks out of there. Did you get an answer from them about the gravel?
No one said anything about who would pay for gravel. I was just told to put a work order in.
I think that would have to come out of our budget. I don't know that that would come out of the county budget, would it?
I don't know.
Who instructed you to?
Well, Ronnie Tate said, and I think he was talking too about the sidewalk, where the yellow indicating where the sidewalk is. It's faded and grass has grown up a little bit around it, needs weed eating and painted.
Does the county traditionally pay for maintenance on the parking lots and the sidewalks, or is that something we normally take care of?
I think we just pay for the paint, because it is county property.
The paint on the sidewalks.
Yeah, we would pay for purchasing the paint. That part of it would come from our budget.
The parking lot's fairly new. We didn't put the gravel in there to start with, did we?
Yes.
What-
I mean, I'm assuming we did. I was always told we did.
We
pay-
did, and it cost way more money than we were told initially. I think it was about $20-some thousand.
Wow.
When I recall, Ms. Cardwell had appropriated maybe $10,000 for it.
Well, maybe this is something we need to put on the back burner until we get all the information together on this, as far as cost and who's going to pay for it and everything, and maybe we can discuss that at one of our future meetings.
Okay.
The second thing that I have on the, under new business is an incident about voter registration change. Last Thursday, I was contacted by an individual that had turned in 2 voter registrations changes directly at the Board of Elections. They had taken them in and gave them to Kathy. They were a husband and wife. The husband had received his voter registration change card, and the wife had not. And I know at that time, when I got this information, was I think the very next day after we found out the voter registration printer wasn't working. So I thought, well, maybe that's what it is. So the first thing I did was I went to the State Board of Elections site to see if the change had been made for them there, because they were changing their party affiliation. The husbands had been changed, in fact, but the wives had not. So I contacted Kathy, the deputy director at the office, to see why the wives had not been changed. In speaking with Kathy, she needed to check in the computer, and she said, hold on, I'll do that. And she did that. And she said there hadn't been a change that was submitted to her from the wife, period. And I explained to her that they were both presented to her in person at the same time. And she said, well, hold on, let me recheck this. And finally she said, yes, here it is. It's been scanned, but hasn't been processed. I didn't exactly know what that meant. She assured me she would get to work on that and do that right away. I checked back several hours later on the State Board of Elections site, and it had in fact been changed at that point. My questions are, how can this happen? How does this happen? And what's to prevent it from happening again?
It's human error. I mean, it's chaotic in that office right now. I mean, you may be sitting there keying somebody in, you have the phone ringing, you have people at your window. It's human error. It's going to happen.
So we don't have, there's no type of safeguards or anything that would cause this to show up at some point in the system?
We have people that come behind to review, but once again, we have temporary staff coming in. So it's human error. I mean, we're doing the best we can.
Well, let me add something to that. It's not only now. I had a person to tell me that they presented to vote in the primary in March and thought that they had changed their registration from one party to the other and had not, so they voted provisionally and changed their registration, they thought, at the same time, to the other party. They got the registration card maybe a month ago, and it had not been changed. She was still registered at her previous party. So it happened then. I don't know how much it happens. We just do the best we can to try to not have these problems. I don't know, unless you have more people there to double check behind. Is it like one person's job to do this?
There's our deputy director is supposed to do the data entry, and then I come behind and review. But at this point, that's not possible. We have other people in there, part-time people that we've brought in to try to review. And then we have some people that we're trying to help us do the data entry. I mean, it's just too much for two people.
And I certainly understand that. I understand y'all are doing your best you can. My concern was, it seems like there should be some type of safeguard or something that would,
Well, when that card goes back to the voter and they see that it's incorrect, it's their responsibility to mail that card back in and show us where the error is, and we can go in and correct it then. And we also scan the card as proof as to why we're changing something.
so this was just basically a perfect storm because we don't have that printer and the card didn't go out to
Yep.
her and she,
That's
so
correct.
therefore we did. But something that the community needs to know is they can certainly go on the North Carolina State Board of Elections and look up their voter registration anytime, day or night.
And they can also go to the DMV and do the voter registration. They can make any change they want to, except a name change.
Like they can change address and everything.
That's correct.
That- yeah.
Everything but a name change.
So if they get married, change their name, they can't change it at the...
They can do that at the DMV, but they have to go to the DMV to do that. It's not something that you can do with the online portal that's working with the State Board of Elections. That particular part of it, no, you can't go on that link and change a name change.
Okay, is there any other new business?
Would you like for me to talk about what's in your packet?
Actually, we need to go into executive session because John's got to leave in about 20, 25 minutes.
Okay, that's fine.
Can we do that after we get through with the executive session?
Okay, it's
And-
just the training schedule and two of the training manuals. That's all I have. And I just wanted to tell you that the chief judge training is tomorrow. I know you wanted to know that. It starts at 2 o'clock, and then the early voting training schedule is October the 7th and the 8th.
So chief judge is tomorrow
Chief judge training is tomorrow.
at 2 o'clock?
At 2 o'clock at the Board of Elections. And I don't have that particular manual for you, the one-stop early voting. I still have to get bids and send it out to the printer.
Okay.
That's all
All
I
right,
need.
we got all that. Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A6 and NCGS, that would be personnel, and NCGS 143-318.11A3 to consult with the attorney.
I second the motion.
There's a motion and a second discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. All right.